was the first attempt to introduce field archaeology for studying medieval settlements. Earlier, archaeology was used for studying mostly prehistoric, protohistoric, or early historic settlements. But no one has tried to study the medieval settlements, particularly of late historical period. So this was the idea of Professor R.N. Mehta, because we did earlier work on various prehistoric, protohistoric, and earlier sites. Now Champaner, since it's a medieval period, lot of literature is available in Persian, Arabic, Urdu and other languages. But then what exactly this literature concerned about the dynasties or the kings and all that. But we are not very sure exactly what was the life of common man. So to understand the common man and the layout of the city, so that he thought we can use the archaeological methods for understanding that. And therefore, particularly in 1969, actually, he started the work. So it continued for 3 to 4 years, just exactly mapping the entire city area. And then that gave him the clue, because except the royal enclosure that's known as Champaner, which was original palace of Muhammad Begda and his official headquarters and all that. But outside the Champaner, apart from Juma Masjid, there are many other monuments like Nagina Masjid, Kebra Masjid, Baradari, and so forth. The Iteri Masjid. So people were wondering, because present Champaner village is within that enclosure, but there is another outsider enclosure, and the different mosques and mausoleums are scattered in different areas. So he thought that these are the local areas, and so for local people always there are mosques, because Juma Masjid is always used for Friday namaz. And so taking that clue, and we went to contact, we are aware of that entire area. So this outside, if you go to Vadatalau area, so on the way somewhere you get one sort of fortification that is known as outer fortification. So there is one gate. Like that we could identify 9 gates on the outer fortification. And all these 9 gates are coming to the central Jaipana. So just like all roads leads to Rome, the same thing, same situation is there. And so we could plot out the main roads and then sub roads and gullies and all that. Now if you happen to be there, if you take any road, so there is a long straight depression, and on either side there are debris, structural debris, particularly of the fallen structures. So if you look carefully there, sometimes you find a compound wall, sometimes you find an entrance or something like that, indications of residential buildings. And there are different types of residential buildings. So on the basis of, you can know which area was occupied by whom. So that gave the idea about the entire city planning of Champaner, particularly of the time of Muhammad Begda. You know the earlier history. Because Champaner, see the location, so very strategic position. The sultans of Gujarat, they tried to conquer Champaner earlier also, but could not succeed. Finally, the credit goes to Muhammad Begda, because their main enemy was the Malwa sultans. To check them on the border of Gujarat, he shifted his capital from Ahmedabad to Champaner. So Champaner became the second capital of Gujarat sultans. Then it continued for a not very longer period, a short period. But then before that, this settlement of Champaner, or known as Pavagadh, is on the hill of Pavagadh. This Parmar Rajputs, or the Rajputs were ruling over there. And they established, there is one place called Nani Umarwan near Pavagadh. There is one inscription known as Nani Umarwan inscription, and it gives the history of the Chauhan Rajputs of Pavagadh area. So there are 13 kings, and the last 3 are historical figures. I don't remember the names of all this now, but then they talk about the fight between this Champaner-Pavagadh and the Patai Ravan, who was the last ruling king on that. About this Chauhan rulers, there is one drama called Gangadas Pratap Vilas Natak. This is Sanskrit Natak, and it gives the description of the fight between Champaner, Mr. Pavagadh, and the earlier, the father of Muhammad Begra. So, but it gives the very clear indications of different monuments, pre-Sultanate monuments, particularly located on the hill of Pavagadh. It was written by one of the court poets of this Chauhan Rajputs, and his name was Gangadas, and therefore it is known as Gangadas Pratap Vilas. And ultimately they say that Champaner could not conquer because they took the help of Malwa Sultans, and Malwa Sultan helped him, and so the Gujarat Sultan had to go back. And so that victory they performed in the court, in the mandap of that Kalika Mata temple at Pavagadh. Now actually, see the history of Pavagadh Champaner, as an archaeologist, wherever we go, we try to understand the entire history of the site or the area. So our aim was not just to study the medieval settlement, but what was there before the medieval settlement. So when we were excavating, now there is a small stream called Jorwan, which rises from the Pavagadh hill only and joins to Dhadar nearby. But while surveying that, we have found some kind of stone tools. Tools made of stone, but used by very early community, what we call prehistoric period. So those elements were found not only in the Jorwan section, but even the entire area. So earliest inhabitants of Champaner or Pavagadh were prehistoric people. There are 3 stages, early stages, like lower Paleolithic, middle Paleolithic, upper Paleolithic and Mesolithic. So the first 4 stages of prehistoric cultures we could get in different areas in and around Champaner. So that was very well established, and no one knew before that. But then after the prehistoric period, there is one more period what is known as Neolithic, but we don't have evidence of Neolithic occupation in and around Champaner, or in that case even in Gujarat. So there is a gap. And then we have Chalcolithic cultures, that means the proto-historic cultures. So we don't have any site representing Chalcolithic culture or proto-historic cultures in the Panjamals or in that part. Particularly we have such cultures in Saurashtra, Kutch and North Gujarat, but then it seems they never penetrated Mahi or crossed the Mahi river. So in this part of Panjamals we don't have proto-historic cultures, so that is also a clear gap. But then when we come to historic period, then we come to the regular evidences. Now in fact the Shuttle Period, which is one of the earliest period after the Mauryas and all that, so we have some evidences of Shuttle Period there, but then the evidences are very sketchy in the sense you get some brick structures, and these are marked particularly in the Bhadrakali Gorge. So except that area we don't have any other evidence of the Kshatriya period. Then Maitrak period, particularly the Maitrak kings, which were ruling Gujarat from Vallabhipur, which are also known as Mitrakas of Vallabhi. So it seems this part was under their control for some time. Now in one of the inscription there is a reference called Shivrajpur. Now Shivrajpur has been identified as Shivbhagpur. So it was one of the province or like district headquarters of the Maitrakas, and so this Champaner or Pavagadh comes under that. And during my survey I have also discovered or found 4 points of the Maitraka period. So that established the history that Pavagadh or Champaner was definitely under the control of the Maitrakas. And then comes this later historical period. Now if you see on the top of the Pavagadh hill there are some Hindu and Jain temples. Now out of this the Jain Hindu temple what is known as Lakulish temple. So this is the earliest, means 10th century temple. But if you look at that, means there are some different structural or architectural influences of the Parmaras or the other contemporary dynasties. And later we get the evidence of these Solankis, that is the Jain temples. Tejpal and other, they have constructed these temples there. And then actually this Rajputs came. Now they consider themselves they originated from the line of Prithviraj Chauhan. Now as I said, this Nani Umar inscription, they give the complete genealogical list of these Parmaras, and they said descendants of Prithviraj Chauhan. Champaner actually, there was a battle, long battle, almost of 20 months. The battle was fought almost 20 months between the Jaisingh, who was the last Hindu ruler of Champaner, and the Sultan Mahmud Begda. Now, and he was damn sure that he is going to win, and therefore before conquering Champaner, he started the construction of Juma Masjid. Now after identifying the main roads, actually we could establish the north-eastern end of the Bhadrakali, not Bhadrakali, Sariyavakaria hill. From there up to the Bhadrakali gorge, there is a horseshoe-shaped outer first fortification wall. So that was the construction of the of the time of Mahmud Begda, because the other side, the Pavagadh hill and its extension, that was a natural defense. So there was no need to have a fortification wall there. But the open part covering east, north, east and southeast, that was covered, which was almost horseshoe type, and it has all 9 gates. So we could establish that. Now even one of the gate, particularly the 9 gate which goes to Nathkua, it is still used. The modern road going to Nathkua, they are using the same gate. So like that, means there are 9 gates, and all these 9 gates were coming to central Jaipana. And then in between there are sub roads, gullies, lanes and all that. Now when we plotted the entire area, we could find that different areas were occupied by different people having different social status or economic status. So our department thought we will study the specific localities representing these nobles or middle class or lower middle class, or even the shopping centers or the malls like that. So accordingly, particularly the area between road number 1 this road number 1 which connects the Nagina Masjid and joins to the royal enclosure. So between the hill, that is Sadia Wakaria hill, and there is one road, that is, we have got road number 1, and the area in between we call as sector 1. So the sector 1 has at least 8 to 10 big residential complexes. So it appears from the construction of the houses, the material used for the construction, and the area occupied. We thought this must be the area of some nobles or elite community of that society. And so we, out of this various at least 6-7 big residential area, we selected one, and later on we identified or called them as Amir Masjid. Then between the Iteri Masjid and the Kevda Masjid, we have found some area. So that is a small local street connecting this Iteri Masjid and Kevda Masjid. So on that junction we have one small area which seems to be very not good as compared to the Nagina Amir Masjid. So it was identified as a lower class communities because the rooms are very small. Even they could not use the complete bricks, broken bricks, very ordinary type of architecture considering the size, layout and all that. It seems the lower class people must have been living there. And then thirdly, between this lower class community and the Amir Manzil, there is a crossing of the road. So there we could found some kind of a shopping complex which has at least series of shops on two sides. And so different type of shops which has some underground cellar, some storage place, underground storage place, and some kind of antiquities which might have been saved there. So like that, at least there are 3 different areas we could excavate to understand the different categories of the people. To understand Amir Manzil, since it was a huge structure, and maybe some one of the nobles maybe of Muhammad Begda, so a huge area occupied. Then see, it has a main entrance, and then you have a huge place, open place. Have you seen? You must have seen that. So there is a one structure with small pillars. We have identified as horse stable. And then if you go a bit ahead, we have one double-storied structure, and then a lot of other residential buildings. But then what has happened? See, in 1535, the area was attacked by Humayun from Delhi Sultanate, and because Muhammad Begda was known for his wealth and all that, so he wanted to take away all this wealth and from there, and therefore the entire palace of Muhammad Begda was destroyed. Today nothing is seen there. We tried to identify actually the palace which was inhabited by Muhammad Begda, but except some foundation we could not trace. The entire area was leveled. But then because of that, and his main interest was to get the whatever was their wealth and all that, probably he took and went back. And as a result, there was no royal patronage. All the people, those who were living there, maybe these nobles or the merchants and all that. So because of the lack of royal patronage, people slowly left that area and migrated. And this, after the Sultan, this Humayun's attack, this capital was also shifted to Ahmedabad, back to Ahmedabad. So subsequently, this Baroda and Surat, Ahmedabad again developed. And so people, it seems, might have migrated slowly, taking whatever with them and nothing is left at the site. And that has been identified as Baba Ghulam Ali. That is the name of written there in Arabic or Persian. But then we have very interesting antiquities in the form of ceramics, even this Chinese pottery. What is interesting is that among the many Chinese pots and potsherds, we have found at least few sherds where instead of Chinese script, we have found this Nagari script. So that shows that these people have that commercial tactics, means how to capture the markets outside China. Otherwise, there are many shirts which are where we have Chinese letters, but in few shirts we got Brahmi letters or Devanagari letters also. There is one structure called Rani No Mahal. Now, actually, that was maybe may not be Rani No Mahal, but maybe some nobles again Haveli, but today it has been identified as Rani No Mahal. But then, see, most interesting is here this mural paintings. Particularly since we expose this Amir Manzil in the main structure, two-story building, particularly on the first ground floor, we have wooden cupboards. And this inside of the wooden cupboards, these blocks are decorated, and even the central hall or the walls were decorated with mural paintings. And these mural paintings are floral and floral decorations. Sometimes we have carvings also. So that is very interesting. That gives you the idea of the status or the choice of a person. Now sometimes you get a painting like an umbrella or that is chhatra, this royal signal, and then supported various types of peacocks and all that. It is also very interesting. A mosque which is there, and the ground floor it was identified as Sarai, means the halting place for the people coming and going there. And on the first floor, normally we have, if it is a masjid, we call a mihrab there. But here, instead of mihrab, there is a cross, hollow cross. So that has been identified as a Christian church, because there were certain Portuguese prisoners at Champaner-Pavagadh's time. But even that shows how he was even careful about even the prisoners or the captives. So he constructed even a church for them. So that is one of the significant aspects. Now another is to appreciate, because we always thought of this Muslim rulers or is very crude, cruel and all that. But then one inscription I have found near Mandvi, that just outside this area of Raila, and it is in one of the step well. Now in this step well, as we entered, on the left side there was one niche, and in that inscription was found. But you will be surprised to know it is in Nagari script, and it talks about the donation of some land for the construction or for the welfare of it. There is a step well, and then there is one mosque, and then there is Hazira also. So the income of that particular land will be spent for the purpose of that well, Hazira and mosque. And see, there is the instruction that means it gives the importance of the storage of water. Now, Pavagadh Hill, see, there are two different political dynasties. On the Pavagadh, you have the Rajputs, and at the foothills, it is the Gujarat Sultans. But even Gujarat Sultan, if you compare to mosques which are in Delhi, and mosques which are in Gujarat. This is quite different. Now here you take any mosque, either Juma Masjid or Nagina or Kevda. Basically it is a structure with minars, because that is the place actually. And then if you strike the vertical bands, it looks like almost the Hindu temples. Now there is not much difference, only the missing part is in Hindu temples we have gods and goddesses or any human figures, animal figures. Now these things are missing here, but actually this is exact copy of the Hindu or Jain temples, because it seems this masons mostly maybe the local people, and as per this instruction they have avoided the human or animal figures. Otherwise it is totally just like Hindu architecture. Military structure means as such, of course we have not found, but then just little away from this Vada Talab, there is one area which had been identified as military cantonment. But then that was not very thoroughly surveyed or studied, but so nothing was not much known. But then there is another place known as Katodia. There is a small village known as Katodia. Now Katodia means it's Kita. Means it's a particularly maybe the ironsmiths workshops. And if you go to Mandvi office of the Archaeological Survey of India, outside the Mandvi there are heaps of these chain armors, iron armors. So these are the blocks. So many armors must have been lying there, and all this must have been manufactured there, and maybe along with some other weapons like swords, shields, arrows, etc. Right from the earliest times, means from Rajput times till Muhammad Begda's time, all the structures, either temples or mosques or fortifications, all that, it's a local stone they used, and the stone appears to be brought from the nearby area, what is known as Nath Kua. There are old mines, and these mines has a very good quality of sandstone. So they quarried those mines and brought the stone for the construction of all these residential buildings, religious buildings, or even the fortifications. Nowadays these ASI people are getting this stone from Dhangadra. They are not using it. Even Dhangadra is quite far up, but they use limited stones, so they could afford to get it. Because for such a large scale, definitely they use the local mines which are there at North Goa, because still we have the evidences that how they might have got this huge blocks of stones from that. Even the catapult stands were lying there. Means you don't see the joints even, they have not used any cementing material like lime or cement or so. Now what they used to do means this is one block, another block here, but in between there used to keep the iron blocks, so which holds the lower block as well as the upper block. That is very common, means in all Hindu temples or Jain temples or even the mosques of that period we have. It's a very common practice everywhere. City planning, as I said, means it was divided into various sectors, and these sectors particularly, as I said, means there was a community-wise, a particular community was living according to their economic status or the social status in a particular area. So like that means the area between road number 1 and Saryavakara, it was all noble communities. So there are some areas which were occupied by middle class communities, some areas were occupied by lower class communities, and in between there are some shopping complexes also. Now for example, when Amir Manzil is created, outside the Amir Manzil, between the road and the outer wall of the Amir Manzil, the front side, there are series of shops. The shops were opening towards the street. So that sort of arrangement is always there. And then the roads also must have been paved with stone blocks, because we exposed some of the roads where beside the left of some 1 meter or so, we could found that they were paved with solid stone blocks like that. Because see, it's very difficult to tell exactly, but in Amir Manzil, in one we have what we call this tankas. So the rainwater means among the channels also there are rainwater channels or the dirty water channels, sewage channels like that, freshwater channels. So definitely they must have some arrangement for the water harvesting also. But then regular, because we have different types of these wells, like step wells. Among the step wells, so we have this helical type of step well or other type of step wells, or even the ring wells are also found at Champaner. You know, ring wells, they are made of this clay rings arranged one after the other like that instead of stone. Now see, for example, Champaner means Pavagadh Champaner as a World Heritage Site, and why it got this status of World Heritage Site? Because it is not confined to one particular religion. Now even today, it's a pilgrimage for Hindus, Muslims and Jains. So these three communities are regularly or frequently visiting this place. And we have monuments representing all these Hindus, Jains and Muslims. And there is a very harmonious relation between all this. Means there is nothing, any complexity or conflict between. Even that Dargah which is there at the top of the Kalika Mata temple, that shows the religious harmony. Even that that inscription which is in the Mandvi step well, that shows the religious harmony among the people, because though it was a Muslim rule, there is an inscription which is in the language or in the script of the Hindus, and it starts with the salutation to Sharda, salute to Ganesh and all that. It gives the complete Hindu calendar, and then they give the threat of the Kalika Mata, which is known for that. It is one who tries to destroy something, she will curse him or her. So it's very harmonious relations between the various communities, and that has been seen at Champaner, because that could be one of the reasons why it has been selected for a World Heritage status. Continuity of history, right from prehistoric period with little gap in between, but from historic period again there is a continuous settlement, people living, occupying that area till today. So there is a continuity of cultures. After that, Humayun never stayed or never occupied this area again. He left, and therefore this capital again, this son of Humayun again went back to the Ahmedabad, and so there was no royal. There was no any king who remained at Champaner. Near this Mandvi office there is one structure what is identified as Sylvia Alley. So this Scindia means the Scindias of Gwalior. It seems they were, the Champaner was under their control for some time, and then it went to the Britishers. Champaner, because basically it is a, apart from the prehistoric part, it is a historic settlement, and right from the Shuttle Period there is a continuity, and then during particularly the Rajput period, means from 13th century onwards till maybe the 16th century, it's in prime growth, and maximum number of well established the monuments which are there, maybe the mosque or mausoleums or the stepwells or the forts, they are very well preserved, and that gives talk about the glimpses of that period. You cannot excavate the entire habitation or this settlement. First of all, this excavation is a very time consuming, and it requires a lot of money also, financial involvement also, and then so one has to make what are your objective, what exactly you are trying to understand through excavations. So our aim was to understand the lifestyle of the people of different communities.